Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who, if you go, he'll go. It's John Leavengood.
I go, he'll go?
Yeah.
I don't know what we're referencing.
Wait, if you go, we go. Remember in Backdraft?
We go. Oh, right. Okay. Gotcha. We were talking about something before we started recording. And so I swear to God, folks, I was thinking about Star Wars. That's your hint for the future.
If you want a inside baseball look into how we record these episodes, John and I chat about life, and then we were just talking about Star Wars. And I'm like, okay, let's start the episode. And I think of the intro in my head. I don't tell John what it is, and then I just dive into it. So you were probably still thinking about Rancors and Stormtroopers.
I swear to God, I thought this was a line shared between Stormtroopers in the beginning of episode 7. I'm trying to think of what Stormtrooper said that.
You go, we go. So, okay, John, before we dive into Backdraft, every 25th episode we do a Kurt Rusell movie. We're finally talking about 1991's Backdraft. But before we jump into the Russ of it all, I want to talk about Ron Howard. Like, you and I, we've grown up with Ron Howard cinema. Like, I feel like he's been making movies since the 80s. You know, he was acting long before that. And, like, yeah, he's just been there since the 80s making successful movies. And so I found this really interesting Harvard Business Review article about him. And he talked about how when he was on Andy Griffith, he would watch the director's work really patiently. And then when he was on Happy Days, during the off season, he would direct TV movies. And he also directed a Roger Corman movie, but he had to it was called Grand Theft Auto, but he had to act in some Roger Corman movies first before he could direct it. And once he made a few hits, once he and Grazer got together and people helped him, he started thinking about cinema, and he started thinking about TV seasons. Like, you make 26 episodes. He's like, yeah, like 3 or 4 of the episodes aren't great. Maybe 4 of the episodes are great. So you have, like, there's a lot of great, there's not so many great, there's not so many crap, there's just a lot of good. And he goes, you know what? I think I can make movies for the next few decades because I think I can just keep making good movies. I'll make some great ones. I might have some duds. I'll make some good ones. And, like, reading about him and how, like, he learned to be he has a lot of empathy. So he talks about something really interesting where every actor, he used to coach a basketball team, and he wouldn't coach them as a whole. He would recognize their strength. If a kid couldn't shoot but had great footwork, he would turn him into like a defensive specialist. So on set, he learns the actor's strengths and builds towards those and works with them on set. And he also gets along with studio heads. He takes notes, but he's also very persuasive, but he'll listen to the studio, like when they're talking, because he wants to build a camaraderie with the studio heads. Also, like, let's say his DP comes up to him and his DP is like, hey man, I got an idea. He's like, well, I don't really see it. Can you show me? And like, but he'll let people show him. He's open to collaboration. And it's just, I don't know. It's just really interesting learning about his career because, we've watched his films for a long time. Like Willow, I've talked about. Like, I love Willow. I love Splash. We've talked about Rush on the podcast. We've, like, this guy, like, he did Parenthood. Then now we're doing Backdraft. And then he did Apollo 13. He got nominated for Oscars for that. Like, then he did How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which was huge. Then he did A Beautiful Mind, and he won an Oscar. Then he went and did Cinderella Man. Then he did Da Vinci Code, which made $700 million worldwide. Then he got nominated again for Frost Nixon. Like, this is a guy who, like, then he directs Rush, a movie that you and I adore. And then last year, he made a movie that I thought was incredible, which is 13 Lives, or 2022. Like, I think that movie is incredible. So this guy's been making hits and producing hits since the 80s. But, like, when conversations about giant directors, like, oh, Denis Villeneuve, Kubrick, justifiably so, Nolan. But then you have Ron Howard, man, who's just been making movies for 4 decades and just, acting long before that. And I'm really impressed by him, man. Like, I think he's a guy who he'll make a dud, right? Or he'll make a movie that's not a huge hit, but then he'll follow that up with a big hit. Like, he followed up The Dilemma with Rush. And it's just, like, he's a guy that can always, I think, rebound. Like, he has a really good sense of filmmaking. And that's why I love him, man. And, like, just watching Backdraft, listening about how they made this, it just made me respect him more and more.
Well, yeah, he's he's just one of those visionaries, right? And spawned from the 80s. It's like we had our Spielberg, our Zemeckis, Ridley Scott. Well, I guess he started in the
70s.
But yeah, like he's one of those visionaries who even if you don't love all his movies, you find me someone who doesn't have at least one Ron Howard movie that gives them all the feels.
Yeah.
Apollo 13 is an easy one for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like where you just watch it and you feel inspired and like your faith in mankind is like renewed. If someone doesn't feel that about at least one of his movies, I don't know. I feel like that person has some serious issues with happiness. And I'm not saying you have to like Ron Howard if you like movies. But I'm still saying something, right?
Yeah, no. And
he's too powerful, or his visions are too powerful for you not to be touched by at least one of them.
Absolutely. And like Night Shift, right? Like that's a great movie. Splash was a wonderful rom-com. But then he does Cocoon. Everybody watched Cocoon, John. If you grew up in like the 80s or 90s, everyone knew Cocoon. Like that was just a movie people watch. But then he does Willow, which has been a big part of my life for decades now. I love Willow, man. It's like one of my all-time favorite movies. But then he did Backdraft, which made firefighters sign up. Like it bulked the ranks of firefighters. And then he does Apollo 13, which is just incredible. And he's like ahead of the time with Ed TV, but like How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Kids adore that movie. Like this is a guy who I think he just keeps making, he has so many different types of films too. He'll go make Grinch, then he'll go make Rush, and then he'll go make Da Vinci Code, then he'll pop up in Star Wars, and then he'll make some documentaries, and then he'll go make the wonderful 13 Lives. It's like I really dig that. He's just, some directors have their wheelhouse, right? And I think Shyamalan does a great job of blending it up. Wes Anderson, like Nolan, they all have, like they're all very, for lack of a better term, auteurish. But you watch a Ron Howard movie, and I feel like they're all just punctuated by just solid craftsmanship, a firm understanding of how to make a movie on time and on budget, and just, you just watch them and you're like, this is a well-crafted movie. Like there's some I'm not really a fan of, but like you said, you're not, if you're playing baseball, John, I'm happy with a 300 batting average. Like I'll make 3 good movies out of 10. So it's yeah, I just really admire his career, man. And this Harvard Business Review interview I read with him made me like him more because he just gets it.
Yeah. Well, he gets people.
Yeah.
He it's not that he gets what makes us tick. He gets what makes us want to tick.
Oh, like, but he finds it, right? Like, this guy, I feel like he can tackle most things. And then now that we're looking at Backdraft, it's a movie. Do you know how, I forgot how much plot there is in Backdraft, but the fire effects, I read all about the fire effects and how,
oh my God, dude.
John, they had firefighters, right? I was watching the behind the scenes documentaries. They had firefighters who their entire careers, they didn't get burnt, but on this film, they got burnt 3 times. Like the fire effects are so crazy. They tried VFX, but watching how they like just design this movie, and they're like, okay, well, if we have a fire on the first take, we're going to have a fire on the second take. So what does that mean for our sets? So they had to paint them specially. They had to work them specially. They had to create smoke. Like if this was a real fire, you wouldn't see anything. Like my father-in-law was a fire chief, and he's like, yeah, like whatever, man. Like everyone loved Backdraft, even though they know that you need a mask. You're not running in like Kurt Rusell. You wouldn't see anything, but that it wouldn't make for a good movie. So I think he just knew, like, he went to Chicago because he knew the firefighters were tough there. He just brought Kurt Rusell in, who put, like, Kurt Rusell learned about this movie on a plane ride with Tom Cruise when they were just flying around in a plane.
No.
Right?
Was Tom Cruise considered for it?
Yeah, Tom Cruise was trying to recruit Kurt Rusell for Days of Thunder. And Kurt's like, nah, man. And then Tom's like, hey, there's this other movie called Backdraft. And then Kurt Rusell wanted it, but Tom Cruise dropped out. But like everything I've read about this movie, like Kurt Rusell was the first one to step into the burn gear. Like Kurt Rusell, he said they went to a fire thing and he turned around and no one was there. He was the last one left because everyone ran out. And he was like the super, like, I am doing this. He was like Tom Hanks in Saving Private Ryan. Everyone just followed his lead. And I think that's why this movie stands the test of time, because those dudes were in fire. And it looks great.
The fire is beautiful and harrowing. Like I'm watching this and it's This is a 1991 movie, and yet I'm looking at visual effects, and I'm not trying to. I love everything The Rock touches in a way, but it doesn't mean I love the whole product. Skyscraper, for example, very recent movie, moderately high budget. Everything with fire and explosions looks like dog shit compared to Backdraft 1991. Like these visions, I'm reminded of the movie Event Horizon, where Lawrence Fishburne, that was a great episode of ours, by the way, folks, look it up, where Lawrence Fishburne is talking about watching fire in space hit his colleague in waves like water. And of course, we're wondering, what does that even look like? And we don't ever really get to see a good realization of this notion on screen in the movie. Event Horizon put its effects elsewhere, and it wasn't really about fire, right? We're watching this movie, and I'm watching fire roll over a ceiling like gravity-defiant magma mixed with midnight fog. It is so weird and impressive and otherworldly to look at. Like, I don't know how this happened. The effects in this movie for fire are like when we look back at the effects of the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park for the time. It just somehow holds up. They did everything in all the best right ways.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put it better than that. It's so good. I wrote down fire effects. Wow. And then later I wrote, and more wow.
That sounds like my notes too. Reading more about it. So Clay, first unit supervisor Clay Piney and the designer Alan Hall, they talked about and then even the cinematographer, he had to perform the cinematography in special gels and fire retardant clothing, so he didn't get burnt. But these guys, they had a $1.25 million budget for fire. And he said it took 4 teams to create, from researching the materials to lighting and controlling the fires on the set. So they were like, I don't know, I'm telling you, man, when you watch the behind the scenes on this, they said on the first day of this movie there was fire. And then they said on the last day of the movie there was fire. And just watching them figure out how to create this fire and keep the actors safe and then reshoot when they were in it. So they found out that there was a special kind of cardboard that they could light on fire that would look like that look like smoke. And they said the only problem with it, when stuff broke up, it would stick to the actors and they would be pissed. But they had a special cardboard that created clear smoke, nice ash. These guys, I'm telling you, these special effects dudes were awesome on this movie. And listen, what do you think about the story of this movie? Because technically speaking, this movie's gorgeous. No one could argue, like you said, when De Niro lights the fire and it moves and it's in the walls and the backdrafts, some of the most astounding special effects I've ever seen. But what about the story? Do you like the story?
No, I don't necessarily. I'm not saying that I dislike the story. It's just that the story is just there as a vehicle to get us through the often harsh broing out brotherly love, hate, and to the next fire, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, the whole thing with we've got William Baldwin, jumping ship and joining the fire investigation team because I guess he can't cut it, or he thinks he can't cut it with his brother. And none of that stuff was super important to me. The fact that there was even arson happening was not so salacious to me. Whereas for some reason, boy, this is the rare time that a Steven Seagal movie gets a positive nod, right? But Hard to Kill, remember Hard to Kill? Where because he witnessed something, they took him out, and you can take that to the bank. All that stuff was way more effective for me than what were meant to be the turning points in this story. The story was just kind of there for me.
I absolutely agree. And, the writer, he was Gregory Wyden. He was a firefighter. So I think he nailed the authenticity of the firehouse. He nailed the authenticity of, like how they dress, what they wear, the costume designers, everything about it was great. But there's a lot of plot, man. Cause, okay, so you have the McCaffreys.
This is over a 2-hour movie from 1991.
Yeah, it's like 137 minutes. And so Kurt Russell's Papa McCaffrey, he dies in the beginning. But then you have William Baldwin showing up. Late in life, he becomes a firefighter. But then we see another Kurt Russell, and he makes sure to say, hey, brother. So we learn that Stephen McCaffrey's his brother. But then Stephen McCaffrey has recently broken up with Rebecca De Mornay, and he has a kid. And then you get William Baldwin. He reunites with his ex-girlfriend, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. And then there's arson. And then there's Scott Glenn. And then there's Robert De Niro in an entirely different movie. Then you have J.T. Walsh as a corrupt businessman. You have Scott Glenn as a fire-starting serial killer. Then you have the brothers. Then you have the training. Yeah, there's a lot of... Then he quits, and then he becomes De Niro's guy. But then he suspects his brother. But then it's Scott Glenn. There's way too much plot in this movie, but I don't think it hurt it. But this movie's... I don't know what I would do different because people adore this movie, but this is a long one, John. This feels unnecessarily long, does it not?
It was. So I started this. Now, I have seen this movie many, many times back in the Columbia VHS Club era. For those of you old enough to remember that. But so I've seen this movie many times start to finish. But I think there was a big lull, and I haven't watched it truly start to finish let's just say at least 10 years, maybe more like 15 years. So when I started this movie and I saw the running time, I was shocked. I didn't realize how long it was. I didn't remember it being this long, because when you're younger, you don't pay attention as much too, right? But also just 1991 movies, like a 2-hour movie was a long movie in 1991. An hour 50 was a long movie in 1991, unless it was like The Godfather Part 3.
Mm-hmm.
That was long. And yeah, there's a lot. But you know what? The movie is well punctuated by great relationship scenes.
I agree. I don't know what I would take out of this. Like, I love the Donald Sutherland stuff. I think Jennifer
That's
Jason,
another movie too.
Yeah.
That's a totally different movie.
Like that's like a Silence of the Lambs type thing, where he's going to an arsonist and be like, "Hey man, help me get inside." But you know, I love it. He's like, this person, like, loves fire, but they use it, so they don't really love fire. And he's like, who wants to destroy with fire but doesn't love it? And he's like, oh, a firefighter. Like, I love that scene because it's very Hannibal Lecter-esque.
Well, and I think that was, it feels deliberate. Although these movies came out the same year, didn't they?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they did.
That doesn't mean it couldn't have been based, from the book,
Mm-hmm.
but it is striking how Hannibal Lecter he is, because he's savoring the interaction when Baldwin comes to question him to try and figure out in greater depth who this arsonist would be. He says, "Oh yes, but who's near the fire but doesn't love it?" It's like this is salacious. This is titillating to him, and he finds thrills in watching Baldwin work it out or bite at the bait. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's such a, again, totally different movie. How many movies are we watching? Because that doesn't even necessarily feel. It feels like it could be in the same movie as De Niro, but not necessarily.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a serial killer. Scott Glenn's a serial killer, correct? Or is he a?
I guess we'll call him that, right? Or
what is he?
A serial revenger.
Okay, serial revenger. So he's not just grabbing people; like, he's targeting people for specific reasons because they stole and took money away and they made money from it. So he's
off of the deaths of firemen.
He's a serial killing avenger or revenger. He's a serial revenger. So then you have that hunt, which is De Niro and him. And then, Baldwin could be 7 with Baldwin and De Niro chasing Scott Glenn. And then this could be Silence of the Lambs with Donald Sutherland, but then this could be brothers. a story of brothers reconnecting. This could be a story of, this could be a romance with him and Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Like with the brothers, though, like he could have come in, had a tough time, washed out, taken another job, had all the Jennifer Jason Leigh stuff, right? Without any of the crime, and that could have been the movie.
Yes, exactly.
That could have been the movie, right? And then they're just kind of in antagonistic roles with respect to one another.
I think I know why this movie works so well, aside from the special effects. And that's Kurt Rusell. You know that scene when they are fighting in the hospital? Kurt Rusell has this A+ shaky angry face. Like, he really channels some anger. And there's a scene where he starts on the top of a building and he runs down a series of like walls and steps and containers all the way to the ground while a crane follows him. Like, the physicality of Russell's performance, like when he's with his wife, when he's with his kid, I don't know, man. Like, and there's even a boat like Lethal Weapon in this movie, which is interesting. But I think he's the reason why this movie really works. Like, nothing against Baldwin, nothing against, I love De Niro in it, but I don't know, the physicality of Russell, like this, is this his most physical, like presence performance, or is like Soldier, like,
well, Soldier, he's literally fighting. So that's a tough comparison to make, right? But
when he's like been on screen, like he's had the swagger. Like, we've talked about so many of his movies, but like Escape from L.A., Captain Ron. But this one, there's so many different Russells, man. Like, I don't know. I feel like the physicality of this one, and like I guess, quote unquote, the manliness of it. This might be his peak manly movie.
I mean, well, I don't know. I feel like manly can be misconstrued. I'm going to call this his peak alpha movie.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. So like, there's so many different types of manliness. I guess
not in a toxic way necessarily, but a little bit of toxic, right? But there's also just like the hero stuff, but then, with reckless abandon because of his own self-loathing with his other failures. So he just has to do that. It's that character who's like, no, I just have to do this because that's what I do. And Rebecca De Mornay says it, right? And Baldwin says it, but really, I feel like that's fueled by something else. And it's like he's a hero, but he's not a hero necessarily out of virtue.
Oh, it's more of lack of, like, making up for other things, and like
or it could be making up for other things. It could even be, I've failed at all these other things, but God damn it, I will never fail at this, even at the cost of my own life.
Ah. And he has a legacy to live up to. That's interesting.
Well, and he kind of has his brethren of the hose. They always have his back. Even when he realizes what Scott Glenn did, they're sitting there having like an argument over like a dispute. It's like, what you mean you killed all those people because of this, that, and the other? He's like, well, yeah, man, they were profiting off of the deaths of our brothers. He's like, you can't do that, as opposed to tackle this criminal who has been deceiving you. And I don't know.
It's a very layered performance. It's a very committed performance. You can see he's in the fire at all moments, right? He's just, I don't know. I think this is a really interesting Russell. I think this is one of his better performances, John. I really do. In terms of like physicality of his anger, of what he's lacking, I feel like he had a very clear-eyed view of this movie. And he said he loved this movie so much. He said he hated leaving this movie. And he talked about how on like the last day of shooting that he didn't want to go home. Like he said that like when he went home, he's like, and I went back to a life that was not as worthwhile as the firefighters. And they probably felt a little sorry for me that I had to go back to playing cowboys and Indians. Like, he didn't want to leave this movie, John. Like, he was so into being a firefighter that he didn't want to go back to playing pretend and acting. So he got like really into this role, which I thought was pretty interesting. Like, it's I don't know. I just like it. I thought
you mentioned his physicality, by the way, in this. If you take the alpha away, I feel like Breakdown echoes an older version of this character if you strip the alpha away.
Interesting. Like,
his outbursts,
yeah.
his struggles with the criminals.
How do you think Bull would have dealt with those guys in Breakdown?
with a tighter fist. He just walks in and they're like playing cards and he blasts them all with a fire hose. I don't know where he set that up, but yeah, wait, that had JT Walsh. This has JT Walsh. Tequila Sunrise, an executive decision. This is our fourth JT Walsh plus Kurt Russell movie.
Yeah, it's a whole universe. We're running out of Kurt Russell movies. Not really. But yeah, no, like it was fun seeing JT in this. Like he's the JT. I mean, JT Walsh seems like a guy that Kurt Russell would want to work with, though, right? Just no nonsense, knock out the lines. Because I was, you know what's interesting? I was reading an article from '91 about this movie, and the reporter was talking about how even in '91, Kurt Russell found acting to be kind of silly. Like he kind of said that, like he just would rather go flying. Like he took the interviewer out in a plane and made the interviewer fly the plane, and he just laughed the whole time and then fixed it. But like, I guess at this time he said this interview said he's been long stuck on the special back burner Hollywood reserves for second tier leading men. His critical successes have often been box office disappointments, and his drawing power has been doubted. Like they didn't even put his face on the Backdraft poster because they didn't think that Kurt Russell could open this movie, which is kind of crazy. Like at this time he was sort of second tier action star, and he wasn't even promoted as being in this. So I think this hit probably propelled him into bigger and better things, right? Just as far as opening, because if you look at this, he did Backdraft, and then he did, let's see, oh yeah, look at this run. This wasn't great. He did Best of Times, Big Trouble in Little China, Overboard was a hit, but then Tequila Sunrise, Winter People, and Tango and Cash, those movies didn't do great. But then when in '91 he did Backdraft, they did Unlawful Entry, then Captain Ron, which I'll stand by. But they did Tombstone, Stargate, Executive Decision, Escape from LA, that was kind of not great. And they did Breakdown, which did well, but then Soldier sort of punched his starring roles in the gut for about 5 years. But he went on a leading man run there after Backdraft. It's like this movie definitely opened some doors for him, I think, as a leading man again. This one really did give him about a decade's worth of leading man work.
Oh, I mean, this movie has the staying power.
Mm-hmm.
This is the more broader public appeal role that he had in a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, Overboard, yes, but again, this is a serious role that, like, I could see a dad taking his 10 and 12-year-old to see this in theaters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Little intense, but still. But back in '91, we weren't worried about that. So, I can see that. I can see this being, like just a family Columbia House VHS club Friday night movie choice. Because, well, frankly, it was for me and my family many times. Whereas a lot of his other roles, well, like horror and gory sci-fi and funny fantasy action, when we get more genre-ish, we start to limit our audience more.
No, that's a good point.
Even if it's great within the genre, like Big Trouble in Little China, The Thing, we adore these movies. Escape from New York, but they're I don't know what the word. They're not weird movies, but they're weirder when we're looking at general genre appeal to general audiences, I feel. And so, like, this is the movie that on a Friday night at Blockbuster, almost anyone can reach to. You're not going to watch it with small children necessarily, but this could be a date night. This could be a family night. This could be bros watching bro movies, right?
Mm-hmm. And no, you are 100% correct. Like, there's this movie's so rewatchable, Backdraft, but I also think that's because it's done so well. It just looks great. But then you have what's interesting too is it's almost the perfect cable movie because it's 8 different movies. Like you could, does that make, like you could just pop in and out of this movie? Like, I feel like these are the movies that are best on cable. And then, I was just thinking about something. I would say 3 movies that I would say Backdraft, Tombstone, and Stargate. Like, those are very beloved films. And Kurt Russell's characters are kind of the same. But if you think about Wyatt or Jack O'Neill and Stephen McCaffrey, they're very tough. But then you look at his other movies where they're like, I think Snake Plissken, that's more of like a play on, like, he's a funnier character, right? He's more of a kind of a pain in the ass, I would say.
Yeah, he's like our anti-hero.
And then, in Tango and Cash, he's just he bloviates a lot. Like, he's just the sarcastic hero. But these 3 movies, he's not any of those. Like, he's not super sarcastic. He's quite earnest. He has a mission. He does the mission. And those are 3 of his more popular films. But if you look at like 3,000 Miles to Graceland, he's pithier in that. Dark Blue, he's kind of a anti-hero. So it's just interesting that these 3 movies people love. But when you talk to somebody, they're like Stargate, like everyone loves Tombstone. So but they're very similar performances in that they're not pithy characters. They're not sarcastic characters. They're not anti-heroes. They are, for lack of a better term, heroes. Is that the most profitable Kurt Russell?
Is that the most profitable Kurt Russell? How profitable was Miracle Kurt Russell?
Here, let me pull up his box office. That's
that's kind of like the best, like, wild card I have for that. But yeah, people like hero movies though, don't they?
And they're straight up action film, like Backdraft. There's a lot of story, but there's awesome fire. Stargate, he's on location. Tombstone, like, growing, maybe it's just because we're in our 40s, but Tombstone, man, growing up, everyone's like Tombstone, bro, like Tombstone. So I mean, like, his highest grossing movies are obviously the Fast 9 movies and Guardians of the Galaxy. Vanilla Sky, but he wasn't really the lead actor in that. But like, yeah, if you look at Stargate, and then there's Backdraft, like, yeah, those are 2 of his and then like Tombstone made $56 million, but those are some of his highest grossing movies that he's made. So yeah, I think if you just looked at the release dates and what they were, like Westerns don't play worldwide, so it doesn't have that big of a box office. But yeah, no, I just find that to be really kind of interesting that those are probably some of his bigger grossing films, but they feature a very specific Kurt Russell. And maybe I should have talked to you in advance about this, but like, okay, so how about this? His 2 highest grossing, like, non-Fast and the Furious, non-side character in a Tarantino film or sci-fi film with Tom Cruise are Backdraft and Stargate. His movies are never blockbusters, but I think the 3 that people just generally adore that are like The Thing and Big Trouble are his ones where he's like the hero or like the non-cheeky Captain Ron. I have a question, John. If you watched him in Captain Ron, could you see him be in Backdraft? Like this character?
Wouldn't predict that ever. I'd never predict that. No.
Right.
And what's funny is that I'd never have predicted that it was although just by 2 years, right? But that is the slightly younger Kurt Russell being that serious character as well.
Yeah. Which Kurt Russell character, based on everything we've learned about him for the years we've talked about him, what Kurt Russell characters do you think is the closest to Kurt Russell?
Maybe Mr. Nobody.
Just drinking Belgian ale, flying all over.
Because if you strip away the semi-infinite, like, MI6 CIA budget, he just seems to talk like a really straightforward, regular guy who's pretty self-satisfied with his position in life. I'm serious.
No.
It just seemed his most unrealistic conceptual character, right? In the infinite budget government agency, maybe that exists. I don't know. But like dealing with these criminals. I need to have my team my way. All right, Tom, whatever. But did you try the Belgian ale? Like, it's pretty good. I only drink Corona. Like,
well, that's fine. I got that for you.
I feel like that's probably pretty spot on. That honestly, or Overboard.
Oh yeah.
Again, just a fun-loving, go with the flow. We can handle whatever big deal falls in our lap kind of guy. I feel like it's It's those.
That's funny because yeah, he loves to fly planes. He doesn't really care about what Hollywood thought about him. Like I love that he turned down Tom Cruise. I was like, no man, I'll go do this fire movie. Yeah, no, that's perfect, John. Cause
I mean, do you have any other ideas about that?
well, no, because I mean, think about it. He's not 3,000 miles of Graceland. He's not the Thing. He's not the guy from Used Cars. He's not Big Trouble in Little China. Like I'm telling you, I think demeanor wise, in all of these movies, like in Fat Furious 7, you're right. He's like, hey guys, we got an intergalactic mission here. Let's drink some Belgian ale. Like he has a winery. Like he probably brings his winery with him all the time. And he, everything I've read, he doesn't seem like the larger than life, the crazier guy. Like on set, he was really chill. Just seemed like a happy dude. So yeah, I think you're right, John, because he's not Stephen McCaffrey. He's not his characters from like Miracle. He's not Herb Brooks. He's definitely not Herb Brooks. Like he's not Cash. So yeah, he's not Robert Ramsey from Poseidon. Maybe no, not David Grant because he's not a suit. I don't see him being a suit. He's not Jeff Taylor because he'd be flying places. He wouldn't be driving around in a Jeep. So yeah, I think you sold me on it. And you went there first.
I just went with my gut.
But like
we're going to be running out of Kurt Russell movies.
Yeah,
I feel like we have 5 left. I don't know the real number.
Okay, so we have like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We don't need to count. We have Vanilla Sky. We have Sky High. We have Deepwater Horizon, Poseidon, Unlawful Death Proof, Unlawful Entry, Hateful Eight. We have Fox and the Hound if we want to do that. We have Silkwood, Dreamer, Overboard, Grindhouse. Let's see. We've done that.
We haven't done Overboard?
Nope. The Best of Time, Swing Shift, The Mean Season. Let's see. Touchback, Art of the Steel. We've done Bone Tomahawk. And we haven't done any of the Christmas Chronicles movies. So we have a few years left.
Yeah, all right.
But I don't mind it. This is good. But I mean,
more than I thought.
Like going back to Backdraft though, I know it's 18 different movies. I know that, but like it's still fun. It's still, I don't know. I feel like the episodic nature makes it go by pretty quick. Even when you're watching it, it doesn't really feel like a 137-minute movie because there's enough interesting.
It doesn't feel like 90 either.
No, but there's so many momentum killers in it too. But the momentum never dies fully. You have the relationship with Jennifer Jason Leigh, then you have Rebecca De Mornay, then you have the De Niro thing, and then you have the Scott Glenn thing, and then you have the J.T. Walsh thing, and then you get then there's an entire training montage in the beginning, but then he quits. The fact that Ron Howard made this, I think in a lesser director's hands, this movie would not have been so successful as it was with Ron Howard.
It would be too haphazard, and if I think that what makes it work, despite the stitchwork horror of 8 movies put into one, is that when you do have the conflicts are actually the consistency.
Yeah.
Any scene where J.T. Walsh is cross with somebody, any scene where Baldwin is conflicted with Russell, any scene where Russell is conflicted with anyone else, Rebecca De Mornay, Scott Glenn, whomever, you're being too hard on him. I'm like I am with every other probie, whatever. But like the intensity is the tone that's consistent. Everything else around the movie is not, right? This relationship with Jennifer Jason Leigh. Oh, we're making out on top of a fire truck. Oh no, the fire truck's going away. Oh, the guy's pulling down the fire hose and here's a bra and he looks up and Baldwin's like, sorry boys. And they're like, oh, you, right? And it's like, that is not in this movie, right? Where you have all this intensity, but no, it's whenever people are cross, whenever there is emotional conflict, vitriol, or emotional fire, that is what is, or like that's what's consistent.
Absolutely.
That's the tone that successfully finds synthesis between these very unrelated, sometimes sets of thematic scenes, I think. And that's hard though, right? Because it's different combinations of actors. It's not just Baldwin and Russell. It's them, it's other people, it's other combinations of people. But that's where I think it works. I think that is the TVA timeline that we're all trying to bind everything to.
You know, and that's a great point. Like the conflict of the moving fire truck, the conflict of, you know, De Niro sets up Donald Sutherland, but then he has to go back to, later on, Baldwin has to go back to him to talk about that. You know, that scene with Scott Glenn in the firehouse, the JT Walsh of it all, the kind of angry brother on a boat. Yeah, like, I think you're right. Like, that does set up some interesting, like, there's good character work in this, and there is some interesting conflicts. But yeah, I think Howard's just able to find it in something that probably might not have worked. And yeah, but also too, it helps when you have De Niro just wandering around. You have Kurt Russell, you have Scott Glenn, you have JT Walsh, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Rebecca De Mornay. Like, you have just a killer's row of actors in this film. And then you also have firefighters they also hired like firefighters who moonlit as actors in this film to add authenticity of it. The writer was a firefighter. Ron Howard is very practical. All the stunts and effects were just gorgeous. Like Ebert said it too. Like Ebert wrote something really funny where he's like, this movie's gorgeous to look at, but it's like 8 movies. So I thought that was really kind of funny that he wrote about that. And it's just, yeah, I think between Howard's skill, between the commitment of Kurt Russell, you know, Baldwin's totally fine. Yeah, I think it's a cable movie for a reason. It's a TNT movie for a reason. And it just worked. But I mean, I think Captain Ron was that same way. I think Stargate was the same way. I think Executive Decision was the same way. Even Tombstone. He's like the king. I think Kurt Russell might be the king of like TNT. Maybe Kevin Costner. Cause like Dance of the Wolves. But he's such a good, I don't know, he makes movies that are very watchable on repeat. I find that very interesting about Kurt Russell, because a lot of, like, can you think of other actors that you would just want to, like, that you've maybe rewatched more of their movies on cable, like Arnold or I mean, I know.
Well, yeah, but that's for a different reason, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like Miracle. I could rewatch that whenever. The Thing. You and I could watch The Thing whenever, right?
Oh, God, The Thing.
Like, yeah.
I wish I could get Sarah to watch that,
Oh,
but it'll never happen.
Big Trouble in Little China. I could watch that movie every day. Yeah, he's just done a variety of very watchable movies, and I dig it. Hey, and I'm going to send you something. I just found this on a website, and I'm going to attach a photo for you. I think you're going to like it. But I found a photo of Kurt Russell's hair through the decades, and I just want to talk about his hairstyles real quick, John. I found this.
Okay.
Like,
how am I getting it?
I just sent it to you in Skype chat.
In Skype. All right, here we go.
It's like,
I'm gonna dig this thing up.
Kurt Russell's hair. So I found this art, like the history of Kurt Russell's hair, a cinematic timeline, human furnace art and design. Do you think Kurt Russell might be the most? Do you think he is the greatest? Do you think he has the greatest hair of any actor of his generation?
Okay, he does have fantastic. Do you mean any actor of his generation?
Yeah, yeah. Because let's just also talk about his beard too. Like the guy,
maybe his generation, but like Brad Pitt's got the hair of his generation probably.
Whoa, so oh wow. Because I guess Johnny Suede in Legends of the Fall.
Yeah, like his long hair game is amazing, and it's even his long hair game is versatile. And when he has long hair, it's him. He's Louis in Interview with the Vampire. That's his hair. Like, he's Achilles.
Do you think his beard game's as strong?
No, he doesn't have a good beard game in that respect. Yeah, I mean, Russell's got him there. But I'm just saying, but if we're just talking hair, Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, probably both, are their generation's hair icons.
They have the hair that could kind of be insured for millions of dollars.
Sure. Yeah.
Like Kurt Russell. But you know what's interesting about Kurt Russell though, where he'll So Backdraft, short hair. Captain Ron, long hair. Tombstone, amazing mustache. And then you go to, Vanilla Sky, glasses and kind of combed over hair. Escape from LA, long hair. 3,000 Miles of Graceland, he looks like Elvis. Then you go to Soldier, and he has like a cropped hair. Then he kind of went through a hairy phase with Bone Tomahawk and Hateful Eight. But then he'll go do Deepwater Horizon, short hair. And then he'll do Furious 7, and he's got all business hair. It's like, it's a versatile head of hair. Do you think someone has had more of a versatile head of hair? Do you think Brad Pitt's head of hair is more versatile?
I think he does pretty well, man. I mean, Fight Club hair. I'm serious. Fight Club hair, he's got a good range. He even does well with a shaved head.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Fight Club.
And don't get me wrong, it helps that he's Kurt Russell is very handsome. Brad Pitt is a beautiful creature. They're different. Brad Pitt is a different species than human.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like a celestial.
Someone says something interesting. Like he's like one of the world's greatest character actors with the body of like an A-list star. I always thought that was very interesting. So here, we're gonna do something here. I'm gonna give you 5 haircuts from Brad Pitt, and then I'm gonna give you 5 haircuts from Kurt Russell.
Okay.
All right, and then we're gonna do a hair off. We're gonna see who has the best top 5.
Oh, are we each choosing one actor?
So no, I'm gonna drop some on you. All right. Or do you want to pick Brad Pitt and I'll do Kurt Russell right now? Do you want a hair off?
Gosh. All right, wait, hold on.
Because all right, Interview with the Vampire, right? You probably got to add Troy, but also Mr. and Mrs. Smith. He had that really great close cropped hair. Fight Club. Meet Joe Black. He had the dyed tips.
Oh God, he did. Got that.
Have you seen his hair in Johnny Suede? Have you seen Brad Pitt's hair in Johnny Suede? You should type in.
I mean, I haven't seen that in ages.
Huge hair. But you know what? I'm still going Russell. I think all right, let's talk about, Escape from New York, long.
Oh God, I forgot Johnny Suede. Oh my God.
But then you have the thing,
Johnny
like McCready, he all disheveled. But then you can go to, oh man, who else do I want to pick? Let's go to Bone Tomahawk. That's just a huge mustache. Captain Ron, he can do the long hair. And then let's go to Stargate. He has the military haircut. And then I will add his giant bomber from Tango and Cash. So yeah, I think that's he also has Elvis hair. I could do Elvis. I'll do Elvis. We haven't done that one yet either. It's close, isn't it?
That's the one from that's his first movie?
Yeah, John Carpenter and him. But I think you're right though, John, because Brad Pitt's got the hairstyles that's insured. And Fury, he looked awesome. But here's the thing though. He's super handsome, so any haircut he has looks amazing.
I mean, in Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
That barber shop fade.
Tree of Life. Oh man. This is tough. I see, you threw a curveball at me here, man. I did not expect that. You've been between Furious 7 and then dropping the Brad Pitt. I don't think Tom Cruise is up there though, because I've seen his long hair. I think
he has great long hair. Brad Pitt's is maybe better.
I would put him behind Kurt Russell.
That's probably fair.
Yeah,
that's probably fair. And also Tom Cruise, when he does the kind of spiky hair, it never looks like Brad Pitt level.
Mm-mm.
Even though he's deliberately not supposed to look as edgy. The fact is, we all know he can't pull that.
Man,
he can't do the edgy.
So, all right, I wonder if there's been a thing here. Kurt Russell hair versus Brad Pitt hair.
Specifically those two?
Let's see. A look at Brad Pitt's mesmerizing hair evolution. All right. I think more people have talked about Brad Pitt's hair. Dang it.
Well, he's such a super famous, beautiful person, though. I feel like that just makes sense regardless of the actual judgment of the verdict of the hair itself.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's well, I have horrible hair, but if I had better hair than Brad Pitt, you're not going to find more posts about my hair online than Brad Pitt's, right? I might have a lot of Facebook comments, but it's not going to compare to Brad Pitt posts. Like, it's just not. He's too beautiful of a man. It's not fair.
But you know what else is interesting? He got big in the 90s, whereas Russell had the 70s and 80s when hair was just a different beast in the 80s.
New weird hypothesis. We did Jupiter Ascending ages ago with Eddie Redmayne being this, like, I don't know, million-year-old overlord who liquefies millions of people on harvested planets to create, I don't know, Ulta gel that he puts on his skin to live forever. I think that his goal was to look like Brad Pitt. If he harvested enough planets worth of murdered people that he liquefied into gel baths, I think he was hoping that he would just come out of it like Charlize Theron in a milk bath and Snow White and the Huntsman, and he'd just look like Brad Pitt. Was that enough references all crammed together? I think that was his goal.
Man, and then he just gets kicked in the plums by Mila Kunis.
And his sister also wanted to look like Brad Pitt.
What about Brad Pitt in Tequila Sunrise? He went full Kurt Russell. He went full Pat Riley. That's a different hair look than Soldier, which is different from Vanilla Sky. And also, let's not forget, he was like in the perm days of the 80s with like giant hair. And he's never, I guess, tried to be as stylish with his hair as Brad Pitt has. Has Kurt Russell ever frosted his tips for a role?
Well, when he played the Celestial, his hair was like feathered. That was a bit much.
Yeah, that was a lot of feathering.
Like, he was like 70s porn star feathered. Or 70s Days of Our Lives feathered. If that was
any 70s.
Like, well, I mean, really, it's like you got the two extremes there. There's pornography and daily soaps.
No, John. If you were put in front of a court and you were a lawyer and you had to defend either Brad Pitt's hair or Kurt Russell's hair, which one could you make a better defense for?
Well, I think they're very different defenses.
Like, let's say you take the head out of it and just show the hair.
Just the hair.
Yeah.
It's okay. Well, then it might be Kurt Russell's hair.
Whoa.
Then it might be Kurt Russell's hair because part of Brad Pitt's magic is that it's framing that beautiful face. He's so pretty.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And manly. Don't get me wrong. But he's such a beautiful person.
Remember, like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, like the screen was melting when the two of them were on screen together.
He is an animated alabaster Michelangelo.
But if you took his head out of it and Russell's head out of it and you just saw the hair, you would take Russell.
Maybe. It's different because Brad Pitt's hair is silky, though, and some people just favor that. He has silky hair.
Yeah.
But Russell's hair isn't silky. That's not to say it's not beautiful hair. It's just different. They're different, man. This is like a chocolate and vanilla argument.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of unfair to compare two people with great hair. That was a lot of rhyming.
See, like, Ryan Gosling has great hair, but I'm going to give the hair game to Brad Pitt.
And Johnny Depp has good hair, but I'm still going to go. Right. But Johnny Depp relies on long hair a lot.
But I feel like Ryan Gosling and Brad Pitt, that's like chocolate and double chocolate chip. Like, Brad Pitt's just packing more. They're similar flavors that one's better than the other.
Oh, I think we did it though. What do you think?
I think it has been absolutely resolved.
I hope Kurt Russell's listening to this and he's just been on a ride.
I mean, the pod's been successful, and I noticed that when Kurt Russell is in African countries, he's clearly downloading the pod because you've been doing very well in African countries.
Yeah. I'm telling you, African countries love movies, films, and flicks, Con Air, and Deep Blue Sea. Like
maybe Kenya.
Yeah, I love it. I love that we were like, Nigeria, like so many countries we've been number one in. Morocco, Morocco.
So you posted very recently that I don't remember which African country it was, but out of their top 4 film history podcasts, like Deep Blue Sea podcasts and movies, films, and flicks, and one of the others you do were 3 of the 4.
Yeah, Gambia. It makes me so happy that we have a lot of fans out there, John. We've been number 1 in Gambia at movies, films, and flicks many times. So if you're listening, hello and thank you. Tell us who you are. We want to know because we think it's awesome. John, there's so many podcasts out there. The fact that anybody would listen to this makes me happy. So, I'm just honored that anybody would spend their time listening to our show. But I think we did a good job of tackling Kurt Russell roles, Hair, Ron Howard. I feel like we tackled Backdraft in ways that maybe haven't been tackled before, and that's why people like our episodes.
Yeah, too many people talk about all the same shit.
Well, people.
I'm not naming names, but it's too many of y'all.
Yeah. We got a lot of compliments on our Predator episode because people like that we found new angles to talk about, and that makes me happy.
Sarah, my girlfriend or my fiance's favorite part of Predator, when I made her watch Predator, was when Arnold hugs the tree when the Predator looks up and he's covered in mud.
And that's what's a great moment, right? Like he gets tossed around like a beach ball.
Hugs the tree.
People talk about that movie being all testosterone driven and just ego-y and manly, but all those dudes get their ass kicked.
Dude, yeah, that's one of the few movies where like Arnold plays out more like a Van Damme character.
Yeah. And he just gets
where he's basically losing until he wins.
He's like the final girl in a horror movie, essentially.
Very much. Actually, yes, very much that. Actually, yeah. He's getting just beaten the crap out of constantly.
When he gets backhanded, he flies about 15 feet in the air. And I love that, a former Mr. Olympia, Mr. World is like, yeah, it's cool. I don't have an ego. I'll get blasted back 15 feet in the air. It works. It makes the movie better.
As long as the alien is 7'7".
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not, it's not Jim Varney. But yeah, this is, John, this was awesome, man. And, hey, so before we go, I want to do a Ron Howard movie draft. I think we can do, he's had a ton of movies, so I'll let you have first pick.
Ron Howard movie draft.
Yeah.
Hold on. I just got to pull up his stuff real quick here. I need a little cheat sheet.
I'll let you pick first because I just dropped this on you. Man, I love me some Ron. I love me some Ronnie H. Some Ronnie Howie. Hey, there we go.
Well, I mean, I'm going to go with the one that just always comes to mind first. That's my easy one, and that's going to be Apollo 13.
Love it. I'm going to take Willow because I just love Willow so much.
Good pick. I knew you'd take that, and I wanted Willow, but it's like then you just take Apollo 13 right out from under me then. So all right, so you got Willow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going Far and Away, which is almost, it's not equal, but it's almost as all the feels for me as Apollo 13.
My brother was talking about covering that sometime. I should get the 3 of us together to talk about Far and Away.
I'm in. Outstanding. All
right, yeah, I'll shoot Eric a message because he's been enjoying. Oh, I'm taking Rush, but yeah, he's been enjoying talking about Tom Cruise movies. So yeah, I'm gonna do Rush.
Okay, I'm gonna take the movie where Wilford Brimley is 53, but we all think that he's 73.
Cocoon.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Dude, I swear to God, I have been meaning to revisit Cocoon for like 5 or 6 years. I never do, but I really want to go just have a full viewing of that again. And just constantly look up how old these actors are.
That makes me so happy.
They seem so old.
And then you got Gutenberg in there, Don Amici playing basketball. I love it so much. All right, I'm going to take 13 Lives because I think that should have been nominated for Best Picture. I think it's a vastly underrated movie, and I adore it.
I don't know if it's not vastly underrated, but I do think it's more underrated than it should be. I'm going to take Ed TV.
Yeah. That's a good picture. I think
that is a movie where every time I have ever watched that movie, seen it many times, every time I've ever watched that movie, I am more impressed with it every time.
Good picture.
I find more heart in it. I find more sincerity in the relationships in it. I'm just constantly more wowed by it.
Great choice. I'm going to do Splash. And you feel free to take Backdraft, because we should probably include that. So if you want it, you can have it.
You know, I don't know why. I always feel an aversion to picking the movie that we're talking about. So I'm just going to see if I can pull myself away from it and pick. Parenthood.
Oh, yeah.
Parenthood.
Oh, crap. How do we... That's a great movie.
Parenthood.
How do you... Yeah. That's a very good movie. And it's, it doesn't get old. I adore it. All right. So I get the last one. I'm not taking In the Heart of the Sea. I'm not going to take Hillbilly Elegy. None of the Da Vinci Code movies. Cinderella Man's fine. Beautiful Mind. I don't know. I know it won a ton of awards, but no. You know what? Not Ransom. I'm going to take The Paper. That's a good movie. I like The Paper. The Paper is a good time, and I love the cast. So yeah, there it is. The Paper. That feels right.
Didn't The Paper have Randy Quaid in it? Was he in that? I'm looking that up now.
It has Keaton, Close, Duvall, Tomei, Quaid. Oh yeah, Randy Quaid, yeah.
He was in it.
Jason Alexander. Good picture. David Koepp wrote it.
Okay, all right. So I've got Parenthood, Cocoon, Apollo 13, Far and Away, and Dead TV.
That's wonderful. And I have Willow, Rush, 13 Lives, Splash, and The Paper. Well,
a lot of good movies.
This is perfect. Well, hey, John, thank you for joining me, man. I know you got to get out of here. But, yeah, where can people find you before we get out of here?
Oh, you Google John's Horror Corner, you'll find me just about everywhere. I'm even on Threads, even though I'm too old to know how to use Threads.
I'm still not on there.
I don't know if anyone knows how to use Threads. Okay, young people, if you're there, throw us a comment somewhere, because does Threads just suck? Because I think that Threads just hasn't figured out how to be social media yet.
It's just.
I just want someone to back me up.
It's in its infancy, huh?
Well, look, I'm good at Twitter. I understand Facebook. I'm passable on Instagram. Threads, I don't get it. I feel like I'm trying to do math with the numbers in the matrix. Where is everyone else seeing blonde, brunette, redhead, and I'm just seeing numbers? I don't know what's happening.
So yeah, you can find John anywhere and shoot him a message and be like, "Hey man, this is how Thread works." I'm not even on it, so
on Movies, Films, and Flicks too. Yeah. I've got a tab there.
Yeah, oh yeah, use that, and then also, if you want to let us both know how Threads works, you can let us know. So
just don't tag me in. Okay, if Twitter has tweets, does Threads have strings? I don't even know what you.
Oh no!
Don't tag me in. Tell me somewhere else. Tell me how Threads works on a different social medium so that I can find it.
Yeah, don't message us on Threads to tell us how Threads works.
And then later, when I figure out I can go string about it on Threads.
There it is. So once you.
Or is it a yarn? Because you talk about a yarn.
I mean, you could tell a yarn on Threads.
Am I spinning a yarn? I don't know what it is. I'm a dumb delirious.
Can you talk about string theory on it? All right, let's get out of here. So yeah, for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for John Leavengood, this is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you next week.